Hola, welcome to the call, guys. So we're live now, and I have my friend Phoebe Miller here with me from Hudson Valley, from about an hour north of New York City, and she's a yoga instructor and has started a company called Nomad. And what's the website? Nomad.com?
Yeah, n-om-az.com.
Okay. Yeah, it's like I knew there's
a
a
link at the end.
And we met just on Instagram, actually, which is interesting because just, I hashtagged Yalapa, which was a place that I was doing some massages in, and just met a whole bunch of amazing people. And she had planned to come to host a yoga retreat there. And she liked one of my pictures and commented, and then we decided to meet up in Puerto Vallarta, and we had some coffee, and I met a couple of her clients that were down from New York, and I can't remember, another girl from Florida, maybe. Hey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of cool, interesting how social media can bring us together. But I just wanted to chat today on the topic of the universe and meanings and what signs that nature brings us in ways that we can follow. I'm tuning into nature and tuning into those signs and how interesting they can be, especially with timing in life and seeing different animals or numbers and things. So I'll just let Phoebe share her story and, tell us a bit about yourself, and then, just chat about what you need to share, what you want to share with us. So
thank you. So basically, I've always kind of been in tune with the signs of the universe, but the last couple of years in particular, I went through a huge change. In 2012, I started a yoga program, and I kind of had the dream that you would typically think of as, I was married, I had a home, I was starting this new career, and I ended up actually getting really sick the month that I started my yoga program. I got bronchitis, and I had it. I could not kick it, and I'm not one to get sick ever. So I was struggling. I was trying to show up every day and teach my classes and be the leader that I was for this yoga program, and I just couldn't kick it. So I was on inhalers and steroids and antibiotics and all of this, which I don't love. So finally it went away. And the very next month, my father passed away in January, once I finally kind of recovered. And then 2 months later, my husband actually ended our marriage out of nowhere, for me at least at the time. Consciously, I didn't see it coming. And I started to get a little bit sick again in my chest. So I'd gone to an acupuncturist, and I kind of, filled out the forms that you do when you go to an acupuncturist. They want to know everything under the sun that ever happened to you, basically. And she looked at it and she said, you've been grieving since, when you had that bronchitis the first time. Because lungs, as Melissa said last week, are associated with the uncried tears. So when she said that, it was just, this light was open. And I was just like, oh my gosh. I remembered the moment that I had this, what brought on the bronchitis. And it was my ex-husband and I had been at this baseball game. And I had a cold at the time. It wasn't even that bad. And there were fireworks that night. And we had seen somebody that he was acquaintance with, and I didn't think anything of it consciously. It was somebody he worked with, a woman. And there were fireworks, and then all of a sudden I had this asthma attack. Never had any sort of attack like this ever in my entire life. And he almost took me to the hospital. It was that bad. And then from then on, that's when I had that bronchitis. I'd gone to the doctor like the next couple of days later. What happened, was I was grieving. I unconsciously realized that we had our own issues, but he was attracted to this woman, and he ended up being with her. Not while we were together, but after we separated. So it was just a sign that I knew I saw this attraction, and it was just really interesting that I didn't put that together. But then when this woman, this acupuncturist, who told me this. It just, like, oh my gosh. It was undeniable. Another thing that I experienced, so our bodies, when we're in dis-ease, right, they show up in our body. And another experience I had was during that year of losing my father, losing my husband, losing a home. I moved out of my home. I had to put my dog down. The week that I had to put my dog down, I was in the hospital with kidney stones and a bladder infection. And I could not get rid of it for about a month. I kept pulling it out. And again, antibiotics. And it was just, my body, I knew I was stressed. I was going through a lot, and I was letting go of everything. And if you go and you look at the signs, and Melissa said this last week too, about our body, and bladder is being pissed off, literally, but also letting go. And I was literally shedding entire life. And that's what was happening, was I was letting go through this bladder infection. And it was very telling. And knowing is half the battle. So as soon as I realized that, and I was realizing, okay, I have this life, I have this one other piece that is this part of this old life, and it was that yoga program. It was that, that stability that I was trying to create for myself, and it wasn't fitting into this new life that was starting to evolve in my mind. And I had to put my dog down this same week, and it just was like my physical body trying to shed that last old life. And I actually went to a healer while I was recovering, and I had this vision of Nomad. And it was just like that. I knew exactly the name of the website, what it was going to be. I had this desire to travel again and to teach yoga, to continue to teach yoga. And I just came up with everything. It was literally like magic. And from that moment when I went in and I gave my notice to my job, because it was at a hotel, to leave my position, I was just almost, I was literally healed from it. I had no more symptoms. So the body tells us amazing things. When we're not in that flow, it shows up, so, and then when we're in that flow, there are also those beautiful signs.
It's like listening to your body, right? Listening to those signs.
Yeah, listening to it. And they'll be there. Yeah, there'll be little pieces here and there. And sometimes you're like, oh, I twisted my ankle and it doesn't make sense. But when you really look at it, it's like, are you afraid to move forward in your life? Or when you really take that time to investigate it, they're there, The other thing that shows up in our bodies or our minds, I would say, is our dreams. And I had a really amazing experience. I do have dreams. I often write them down. Some of them, they're gibberish. They don't make sense. But with that, when I was going through my divorce, I keep journals. And I looked back. I was like, where am I losing? Where did I lose this path? How did I not see this coming? Because it had been years of this unconscious kind of just pushing things down and pretending everything's okay. And so I went back and I just read my journals, and I started reading like the dreams that I had and the way I worded things about our relationship and everything. And there was about 5 years prior to us separating, I had written about this dream. And to just give you a quick backstory, my father suffered from PTSD, and he was not in my life from about 15 to my early 30s, early 32, I think. So he just disappeared. And but I always wondered. I just expected the worst. He was a drug addict. I didn't know if he was in jail, if he was dying, if he was dead. I had no idea. And so I was having this struggle of, who am I, trying to identify with my parents and their patterns and moving forward. And my husband at the time was struggling. So my ex was having depression. He was dealing with depression and anxiety, and I was bringing up all that for myself too. I was thinking, well, do I have that? You know, my father had that. It's in our genes, so maybe this is something that I need to investigate. So I had this dream in March, and I didn't know about it until I read my journal 5 years later. And I was having this dream of my old house, my childhood house, and there's my ex-husband and all the people I love. They're all surrounding me and like giving me hugs and kisses and supporting me. And he was off to the side, kind of like going crazy. And all of a sudden, we're waiting there. We're waiting for my father to show up. And my mother, my aunt, they're all looking at Jonathan and like, Jonathan, come over here and support her. And he was just like, no, he's just like all in his own mind. And then literally my father drives up in a car and he gets out. He's wearing an EMT coat, an emergency technician coat. And he just came in and literally saved the day. And then, you know, and then we flew off and do whatever you do in dreams. It was absolutely insane. But I had forgotten about this dream until that was March. And June that year, my father called me on Father's Day. And he was sober, he was healthy, he almost died of lithium poisoning, and he just said a cloud lifted and he remembered me. And he came back into my life, and it was literally, it was almost that exact dream, minus the EMT coat. But here was in real life, my ex, my husband at the time, dealing with this depression and anxiety. My father came in and he kind of saved the day. I mean, we were almost going through a separation because he couldn't know how to deal with it. And my dad came back in and he was an inspiration for my ex and kind of got him back onto this path of you know, doing his work again. And it repaired it for a little while. But then when he died, I think it brought that up again for him, that he needed to deal with this on his own. So dreams, you know, they might seem completely crazy, but if you write them down, they're the signs right there.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like foreshadowing something or something that you're sensing, or it's filtering out stuff too. I find like things that we worry about or things that stress us out, you know, could be just filtering out, or sometimes we think like it could be something negative that we dream of.
Yeah.
Like, you know, somebody robbing our house or something, but it's really more to do with like what are we holding back within ourselves, or you know, something creating that doesn't necessarily have to mean what the dream is, but we could close ourselves off. Like, even I had a dream, my parents were staying here in Nuevo Vallarta, and I moved the mattress outside their room the one night because I was staying in the room. Mm-hmm. And my dad was snoring, and I was like, I can't stay in here. He's snoring, so I had to be quiet. I moved the mattress out, and as soon as I like closed the door, I went to sleep on the balcony, sleeping outside. I started dreaming about aliens, and it was so weird. The creepiest thing ever. But yeah, like when I kind of read what it means, it was just like closing yourself off, or like, you know, spending more time thinking and doing things by yourself, like alienating in a way. But depending on what situation, it kind of just, yeah, like it went a lot deeper. But
yeah,
it's like, sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, but I love that you said they're dreaming of aliens and it's about alienating. It's like it can be that, like, poetic, I guess, or it's so interesting to do that investigation.
Yeah, to see. It's like how we think about ourselves too. Like, am I don't know, am I being different because I'm going against the norm and moving to Mexico and doing other things that not everybody does too, like, you know, to like get married and have kids and buy a house and have all nice furniture. Experience and things are different. I'll go into more stories after you share the rest with you, but more about my ankle. Actually, I have a did I tell that story last week about decision making in my ankle?
No.
Okay, and about like my ankle coming out of place, and anyways, I'll share that and my dream about moving to Mexico. So yeah,
cool.
But
So yeah, I mean, so what I've been kind of saying is our bodies, right? Our bodies, our minds, their signs, and then we also have nature. We have our surroundings. We have these signs that are constantly coming to us, and they could be again kind of little red flags for us to follow, or they could be also um, signs of saying you're in the flow, you're on the right path, and um, a story to continue kind of the story of the last 2 years was when my father passed away. I had a student who I didn't know at the time. She just came into classes very irregularly, and she came to the first class I taught right after my father passed away. And she didn't say much. She just gave her condolences and she went away. And that was in the end of January. And then March, she contacted me, and this was the month that I was splitting up with my ex. And she didn't know anything. She just emailed me and said, I would love to have lunch with you. And we're talking about some possible business opportunities, so I thought it was purely a business lunch. And so we're sitting there, and I said, you know what, I apologize. I'm a little bit of a mess today. I'm kind of dealing with some personal issues. And, briefly told her what I was going through. She said, I'm really sorry, and, whatever, we continued on. And she stopped, and she said, you know what, I really didn't call you here today for this business lunch. I have to tell you something. I was like, okay. She said, I have a history of seeing people after they pass. And she said, I came to that class that after your dad died, and I saw him. He was in my down dog, and I saw him over in the corner, and he was looking at you. Mm-hmm. And I was just so happy because I hadn't had a dream of him. I hadn't had any sort of connection to him after we passed. And I thought, feeling very empty, especially going through that separation with my ex. And so she just told me this, and I was like, oh, thank you. Whether she was just trying to comfort me or not, I just was so grateful for it. And then she just kind of had this puzzled look on her face, and she said, did your father have a lizard or like a reptile as a pet? And I was like, no. My dad was completely crazy. He had lots of different animals, but no reptiles, no lizards. And she was just like, are you sure? And she kept going on about this. Like, no. And then, we continued on with our conversation. I thought it was odd, but I loved that she saw my father, and she described him, and she said he was smiling and just happy that he was glowing because he was seeing me. So I continued on with my day. Literally the next day, everything went downhill, just like the whole, it was very much the end of my marriage. It just kind of blew up in my face. So I called out of work. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't come to work. And then I sat there, cried for an hour, and I was like, you know what, I have to go to work. I can't just sit here and not do anything. So I went into work. One of my coworkers said, let's go out. I need to take you out and take care of you. And I said, okay. So she's just like, what happened? So I told her the whole story and what was going on, and because nobody knew, I had kept it really quiet. And then I just randomly told her this story of my student, Kat, who had seen my dad and this lizard. And she just stopped, and she's like, we have to look up what the animal totem is for lizard. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't know. And I had never really investigated animal totems before. And it was spot on exactly what I needed to hear that day. It was all about breaking free from your past patterns, learning to read your dreams. And I was just like, oh, okay. And that's when I started to look back at the journals, and that's when I saw that dream of my father and various other little dreams, too, that were signs saying, this is not right now, and I just kept putting those unconscious layers of, oh, yeah, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. So there it was this lizard was telling me it's time to break free of these old patterns. And what goes even more amazing, full circle, is after I left my job, I went to Costa Rica. I was just kind of a little bit of a mental breakdown. And I said, I don't know, I'm just going to go. I've been always wanting to go to Costa Rica, so I ended up in Costa Rica. And I decided to go there for the month of January because I didn't want to be year-round for winter. And so I'm sitting on the anniversary of my father's death, January 8th, in this field and just, you know, celebrating him as best I could. And I literally, all of a sudden, was surrounded by like 20 lizards. They just appeared out of nowhere. And I mean, that's not completely insane because it is Costa Rica, but you know, you'd see one. But just literally, they all came to me. They were just like all around my feet. And I gave them like a little banana or something that I had, and they were just going crazy. And I was just like, all right, thanks, Dad. Hi, got your message. Thank you. So I just felt like, okay, I'm on my right path here. And, you know, here he is. Here he is again, sending me these little lizards as a sign that he's here. So that was beautiful. That was absolutely beautiful. And that's kind of a sign of like I was on my path. You know, I was out of the flow, and now I'm back in the flow. So yeah, that's my lizard story.
Information. That's interesting that he was that, you know, the reptile thing, and then him coming there, and the timing of it, and when you were, you know, when you chose to go to Costa Rica, and you know, even just clients telling me little things like their mom loved ladybugs, and you know, they were at the grocery store one day, and out of the blue, there's just like a ladybug on the cantaloupe that she picks up, you know, and she's like, "Oh, hi, Mom," you know.
Yeah, you know, I'm always, whenever I see a lizard, I'm like, "Hi, Dad," and it's so nice, you know. Whether people want to believe in that stuff or not, it's a nice feeling to know that you can be connected, you know. The other thing I'm thinking of, another story I was thinking to tell today was, so when we are in the flow, we have these, everybody I know has experienced like all of a sudden this synchronicity of feeling these coincidences and thinking, are these coincidences or are these signs? And I think that they're absolutely real. You know, follow these signs, keep staying in the flow. And my story of coincidences is when I was, so in October of 2013, I had that vision. I was getting sick. I had this vision of Nomad. Didn't quite know how to bring it to fruition. And when I first went to Costa Rica was as an invitation for to have me come check out a hotel. They're like, come check out this hotel to do yoga retreat. And I said, why not? I'm leaving my job. I don't know what I'm doing. So I went to Costa Rica the first time in December, and I just was walking around randomly, whatever. And I'm sitting there, and I'm having a smoothie at this little shop. And I see this street art on this like garbage can right next to where I'm sitting, and it says Nomad. And I was like, oh my God, Nomad, that's me. I was really excited about that and didn't really think much of it. I think I took a picture, and I just thought, okay, you know what, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. Here it is. You know, I'm already starting the little pieces. You know, I'm looking at this place to do a yoga retreat, and that's part of my new job that I'm creating for myself. So then I went on to my business, came back home, and trying to figure it out. I was like, let me do the holidays with my family, and then I'll figure out what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, I just was like, I was being pulled back to Costa Rica. I said, I need to go back there. So that's when I went back for the month of January. So here I am again. I enrolled in some surf lessons, and I'm my surf instructor. He's, you know, we're chatting while we're waiting for catch a wave, and he says, you know, you should come and see my art. I do this street art. You know, I have the street art, and, you know, we're gonna have like an opening here. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I go. I actually ended up not going that night. I just went up like during the day because I didn't want to go out at night. And I see he's Nomad. He is the street artist named Nomad. I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. And so I was like, okay, thanks. Here we go. Here's another sign. And so I told him, you know, my story, and he's like, that's awesome. And to take it even further, the place that he does his street art was this place called the Pizza Shop. And I went back there. I hadn't gone there really as a patron. I had just gone there when it was closed to see it. So I went back there one night, and the guy who owned it I just ended up falling in love with him. And I just thought, here's Nomad bringing this person in my life who really gave me strength to do Nomad, because I was still kind of like, oh, how do I do this? And he just gave me the confidence, and he gave me that space. He gave me that he built me up again to personally, as you know, and also professionally. And I just thought, this is definitely not just a coincidence, but this is the universe conspiring.
Ready to receive that energy and inspiration from someone, and just like the support to like taking in their advice and their help and their company. And
yeah, it was exactly what I needed at that time. So yeah, those are my stories.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I mean, to people, like there's such like subtle little things too, and it's like to, you know, and I know everyone has little things they think it's like coincidences or timing, and like I don't know, I just kind of feel nowadays I'm just like, you know, is there such thing as coincidence? I almost feel like yeah, we do make choices, I guess, and then that will, and our, you know, our thoughts where we spend our time thinking will create things and manifest. Even just, you know, writing down places I wanted to travel, or having a studio, a yoga massage studio, and then having a big retreat center in like 10 years, and working in another country, and doing this and doing that, and traveling here and taking this course. And you know, when you look back, or sometimes you even forget about them, just like, you know, remembering to go back and read your dreams is like, when you look back 2 years later, I'm like, holy man, you know, like I got to all these places, and like
did some of it. You know, might not have been exactly what you were envisioning, but it was very much, it was almost probably better, right, in a lot of ways.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of it too, is like you have this vision of what you want things to look like, or what, you know, even just people you're going to attract and meet and have strong connections with, and then someone comes into your life that like you haven't expected, or it matches the feeling and the idea and the thing that you're looking for, but it just, they just show up in different ways, like disguised in a way. And that's actually funny, because one of the stories I wanted to share was, before I even started internet marketing, was I just opened my yoga studio, and it was I came back from India, and I asked, like I typed in my phone, I was just asking the universe, you know, tell me what I need to do. Do I need to open a studio, or do I need to go travel and work in another country for a couple years and then come back? And something in my head just didn't make sense with the timing of that. I'm like, well, I already have clients, so why would I leave them when I can start teaching them yoga now? And then I can just decide where I want to live in a couple years. So I kind of went into it knowing that I wouldn't be in Manitoba for a long time, but I know I can always go back, you know, if life happens to take me there. But so I wrote in that note, and then I go back and look, it was like 700, no, it would have been like 400 and some days after India. I got back in June, July, August, September, October. Kind of till, like it went. No, it would have been even less. Maybe 120. How come I can't think? I can't even count. Anyways, it was just a couple hundred days around there. But I went to get a haircut, and at the studio was right across the street from my house. They were selling this, or they were moving to another studio, and I just asked how much rent was, and it was about the same price I paid to rent from other spas and other physio places I worked at. So I was like, why don't I just put a sign on this building and just have my yoga studio and massage in there? And it ended up just being me doing that for a couple of years, which began to be a lot. So one morning I was sitting in bed. I was upset. It was, you know, like still going through some anxiety, kind of new business, doing it all by myself, having everything to like have on your plate. So I'm like how else can I enjoy doing my business and learning more about it and how to run it properly? And I kept seeing spiders, and I was getting like little spider bites like on my wrist. It would always be two right beside each other, and I wouldn't wake up with them, but I'd do a few massages throughout the day, and then I'd come home, and I don't know why, I was like, there's something it's telling me that there's spiders. And I started seeing spiders like when I would leave the house, like right in the doorway. There was only one day that I saw a spider that ran across my bed. So I was like, you know, after washing the sheets a million times, I was like, what is going on? Like, it was a little tiny spider. And then at work, there were spiders on the curtains. I was raking the lawn, and there were spiders like everywhere. And I asked one of my friends about the ancient she has these ancient symbol stones. They're like totem animals too. And she said spiders mean like manifesting money and designing your life's web. So I'm like, hey, I guess I'm kind of doing that with business. And
Yeah.
I entered my email that one morning I was feeling depressed and stuff. And I just said, it said make money online from home. And a couple of weeks later, when I was like, after I found out the signs of the spiders, I kept getting these phone calls at the same time. Kind of like, I was like, why isn't the spiders, when are they gonna stop biting me? And this phone call, I'm like, why does this 1-800 number keep calling me? So one night I just said, you know what, maybe money's calling me, ha ha ha. And I was like joking, and I answered the phone, and I thought it was like credit card company or something. And he's like, oh, it's Huey from Empower Network. You signed up to work from home. And my jaw like dropped. I was like, I signed up to work from home. And he's like, yeah, you entered your email into this thing, work from home. And I'm like, I did, like I completely forgot I did. But I was writing out questions for like 3 months saying, what are the possibilities I haven't considered to generate another income?
Yeah.
And it was all an online business, like on how to run your business online and market online through emails and Facebook and things. And so I started up in that, and in disguise, in a way, it was like a vehicle to learn how to make money in another way that I had no clue was coming, because before my studio, I didn't use the computer ever. Like I would download movies and music, and that was pretty much it. So now, like over 2 years later, I'm in Mexico and have put, yoga videos online and work with clients long distance energy healing, market on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. And it was just an amazing thing that I took that opportunity as like, maybe not winning the lottery, but for me, it was a great learning curve. And it was just something that I took that sign right away. And I said, you know what? It was May long weekend. I remember getting that phone call and just jumping on the call with him and looking at the website. And I just started crying, because I'm like, this is exactly what I was asking for.
Yay.
And I was like, it was money calling, maybe not millions of dollars, but I'm like, it's something that as experiences and meeting the people that I met through Empower Network was like, it all kind of exploded into my life. And like 3 days before the event in Denver in July, I think, I just decided to go to stay in a house with strangers and people I didn't even know. But 2 years later, it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And it took a little bit of money to invest, but you have to put that into business too. And all the stuff I learned from it, I know I wouldn't have, been here today anyways. Because it's amazing, even just what listening to live calls weekly can do and how it motivates you and keep you going. And so that was cool. I'm like, oh, maybe money's calling me, ha ha ha. Like, and it's, in a way, it's, the spiders are almost like telling me, like, answer the darn phone, and
right?
just will stop irritating you, but yeah, and another one, like, it was shortly after I ran a half marathon in San Francisco that June, and then I went to the Empower Network in July. But I knew then that I still wanted to move, so I'm like, how am I going to decide to tell my family I'm moving to another country? I didn't know which country. Like, it was there's a majority there that was going to be Costa Rica. And then I'm like, well, maybe Dubai, and maybe Australia, and maybe I don't even know where. Something just give me a sign. And so anyways, I was running. I just went for a run, and I was thinking like, oh, how do I tell my family, my mom and grandma? And then those guilty feelings come up. It's like, well, do you stay home? Do you keep working like normal people and save up money for 5 years before you can actually go somewhere, and like wait till you retire? And like, as a single girl, you just kind of have to lie on your magic carpet by the seat of your pants and just follow those signs to listen to those opportunities that are presented, So anyways, I was running. That was what was on my mind. And I remember running past a person on the sidewalk and ran up this hill, and I rolled my ankle, and I just heard pops and crunches, and just like walked it off, and probably looked like the people driving by are like, that girl's face looks, I'm just like, it was, yeah, it was painful. So anyways, teaching yoga, I had teaching 8 classes of yoga a week, doing massages. I never really had a chance to let the ankle heal. So it was like, that was in July, and all the way up until February, I remember I couldn't do even some like tree pose, like some poses were hard because of the just pressure on the ankle. But anyway, so one night in yoga, I'm doing yoga. That day was the day that I called my mom and told her I'm moving to another country, and I do not know when, but it's happening, and I'm just preparing you now. I'm sorry, but like it's probably gonna not be till the fall or like summer, but it's happening, So I'm shutting the business down, and this was like a couple years after it was already running, and put up the notice. And that night at yoga, literally my ankle popped back into place.
Wow.
And the gallbladder meridian, which I maybe mentioned a little bit more about the gallbladder last week, it has to do with decision making. So that gallbladder meridian runs down the side of the body, down the side of the leg, and through the ankle. So changing direction in life or making decisions is what the gallbladder generates, and then working with the liver, it can catalyze our livelihood and just our life in general, making those choices. So it was interesting. I made that choice to tell my mom, and I was like,
you made that decision, girl.
yeah, like, I mean, sometimes you just have to do it. And the one thing, I have this book, Messages from the Body. It's a huge book, huge coiled book that I think you can, I think it's actually a couple $100 on Amazon. It's in the cupboard out in the main area. I'd have to grab it. I can't remember the author, but Messages from the Body. So I look up below the right ankle, below the right malleoli, the ligaments. I was going through each ligament, which one it was, and it said fear of like family keeping you around the old homestead. Wow. So I linked this ligament, the swollen ankle, the exact part, to this book, the right ankle, everything. And I was like, wow, that's exactly what I was kind of stressed about at the time. Like, how do I convince my mom that I'll be fine when I move?
Yeah.
So anyways, that day I made the decision, and something in my brain like switched, and then my ankle popped back into place. And ever since then, it was like, it's been great range of motion and stronger than ever. And one of my good friends, is a student that she was coming to yoga for a while. She's like, well, maybe when you do what you know you need to do, your ankle will like heal itself. And ironically, yeah, it kind of, it did heal itself. So I even think, like, I went for massages, acupuncture, physio, but all in all, like, deeper than that, like those signs, what it was trying to tell me was deeper, that it is like the structure and the foundation of your life, like your joints and your bones, and paying attention to that stuff. Because injuries, even depending on how serious they are, is just more of a serious sign. First it could be a whisper, then it could be like a pinch, then it could be like a slap, and then it could be something falling on your head till you actually,
and then it could be cancer, like it's crazy.
Yeah.
It does, it just grows if you don't listen.
Bigger, different diseases. And I know, like, if we suppress those thoughts and those worries, fears in our mind, then that area of our body is also suppressed of oxygen and like blood supply too. So then our body starts to get sore, and those messages aren't relayed through it properly. Arthritic conditions, inflammation, cancer, all that stuff starts to spread through the body. So it's good to, incorporate the meditation into your life and tune into the moment, and just, feel your feet on the ground, be in the moment, and, learn more about why you feel anxious or why you feel depressed, and learn more about, and I guess too, like, there's so many people seeking help for this stuff that it's easier said than done to just go to a psychiatrist or a counselor and talk to somebody and get help. But you know, I saw this picture the other day that says, I think I mentioned this last week too, about the gym, that it showed the gym as what people think is the hardest thing, and then underneath it showed the food. And the food plan after the gym throughout the whole week or the month, you know, it's a livelihood. It isn't the diet, it's a lifestyle of, you know, that's the hardest part, is what you put in the body. And so yeah, it's just tuning in, learning, and implementing these things that we learn. And I love, I mean, yoga is just union of the body and the mind with the universe. And to take that label away is, if you could just imagine just stretching the body and moving it and massaging the organs and breathing into it, moving the breath through the body, then, you know, why is it so hard to get some people to do it, you know?
Yeah.
But it is such a mental a mental thing to bring yourself to the floor to even do some stretching, you know. So and then I'll just tell another little story about after my ankle and moving to Mexico. Was, well, I was still deciding in, when was it? I guess I moved down here in October, August, July last summer. I was probably still deciding where the heck I was going to move. And my roommate now, Jody, she was in Empower Network as well. And we both have a big vision of doing yoga retreats, working with anxiety, depression, and helping people feel better, heal their lives. And so her and I just decided to live together. She was already down here. And I said, you know what? I've never been to Puerto Vallarta before. I'm like, I wanted an opportunity to just work closer with someone so that we could share ideas, bounce ideas off of each other, and work towards our dreams. So that was just something, just having somebody there to work with and, you know, be a good guide was how I chose to move here as well. But I was having recurring dreams, like probably 10 or 12 times. I'd wake up sweating, adrenaline rush, and I was tied to the outside of a plane. And this plane on this rope kept flinging me back and forth and up and down, and it would like fling me up, and then my body would just like fly. And all I kept seeing every time was a coast. And this coastline was Puerto Vallarta, but I didn't know that because I've never been here. And until I got here was when I realized, like, that was the dream that I kept having. And because I was thinking like Australia or Dubai or Costa Rica, where should I go? Brazil, you know? And I think it was just telling me to make a decision, basically. Like, we're flinging you all over the place.
Yeah.
Once you decide, the universe conspires to make all these things happen. Like, your flights get booked. People are there waiting for you to meet them, whether it's in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Those people are there, or they're going to be there, you know. And so anyways, yeah, those dreams stopped, and I got here, and I said it never felt like I was at home more than, I mean, my home of 18 years, I guess, right, back in Canada. But yeah, it feels like home. I was always asking for a perfect place to live with great people, food, and yeah, it's cool. So even if I didn't live here and stay living here, I know that it would have just been a trip, you know, a place to explore for a while and decide then if it's really a place to start a life and a business. Because, you know, having and holding on to those attachments of your expectations too can leave you depressed, feeling, you know, unhappy because things aren't supposed to turn out this way, when really, you know, you're always just where you are in life. And it's just what we choose to do with our day every day, and either take those opportunities, go out and, you know, meet and explore, meet new people, and you never know where those people are going to lead you to or who they'll introduce you to. And I mean, that's always the excitement in every day too, is just,
yeah, I mean, even us just meeting us, how we met through Instagram is crazy. And now we're like in this flow of, collaborating.
Yeah.
Who knew?
We can bounce ideas off of each other from New York, Mexico to Canada. It will be awesome.
Very cool.
There's one thing that came up when I was telling a story here. Just it was more about the yoga, but I was talking about how it's kind of difficult to get some people to do yoga, which it's not about getting them to do it. It's just they know it's there. They have access to choosing to do, stuff for their body. Nobody can really make anyone do it, so it's up to them when they want to change, and what they choose, I guess, works best for their exercise. But when did you start doing yoga? What got you into
For me?
choosing to do it? Yeah.
Well, I was actually a professional dancer, and
Okay.
I found Pilates first. And actually, it's so funny because my mom had given me like yoga videos and on VHS back in the day, and I just always, I would pop them in, and once in a while, and I just, it's like, oh, okay, this is a good stretch, but I never really got into it. And I was teaching Pilates at a yoga studio, and I thought, well, let me try this again. And I started to go to classes, and I definitely had the physicality of it. I liked the physicality of it, but the whole chanting thing definitely was, I didn't want to say anything that in a language I didn't know what I was saying. I was very skeptical, and I had never been raised in a religion, so I was very skeptical about all of that to begin with. And then I just started studying with one of the studio owners, and she spoke to a language that I understood, and I couldn't go to her class anymore. All of a sudden didn't fit in my schedule, and I just went to her and I said, I need to study with you. And we just worked one-on-one together for a year, and I felt so much change, and it was really interesting because it was the year I was engaged that I really dove into it, and I felt I was starting to understand, not just my body, but what those messages were telling me, and feeling a lot calmer. I lived in New York City. I was a dancer. I had a lot of anxiety, and so I felt a lot more calm. I understood now meditation, and I was okay. Oh, I'll try this Om thing, and I'll try this chanting thing. I just, I feel like we come through so many different doors to yoga, but then we all get those benefits, whether we want them or not. That's the beautiful thing about it, is that I didn't necessarily want the spirituality of it to begin with. I just wanted to get a good, to give myself a conditioning class for my dancing, but I got it. And honestly, I find that that's why I practice it more now than the physical practice. So yeah.
The spirituality part.
Yeah, just, being connected, feeling connected to people, and being in this flow, and feeling that there is something bigger than myself.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I even just started, because I used to go to the gym all the time, and then I drive past the hot yoga places, and it just, I guess by the time I could do an hour workout, and then compared to yoga, it was, half an hour early for class, and then it's 90 minutes, and then by the time you get home, it was like over 2 hours of time, which depending on, how busy you are and things. But it was something, then I was like, well, I'll just keep going to the gym. And then slowly I started doing yoga videos at home. And then I found myself like stretching for like an hour, a couple nights a week. And I would just be in this zone of like relax. And like, it was just, yeah, like you're completely in tune with your breath. And then you can kind of find, and maybe being, studying massage and practicing has gotten me into like finding more pain and things in my body too, that, I'd massage a little and find the pain and breathe into it, which also helped me work on clients even greater and find their their pain and their the sources of pain in the body. But yeah, just practicing, 10, 15 minutes a day here and there. And then I started doing more and longer. And then I started going to yoga studios and started just getting into that, and knew it was something that I'd love to just incorporate into my career, and balance it with massage and yoga to keep my hands going longer. And now too, yeah, same with the chanting. It's something that I've been starting to do a little bit more on my own. I think it's easier to do with a group of people for sure. And when I first went to India, that was something very new for me because the first about 15, 20 minutes was chanting every morning, and even just ohms and different ceremonies and stuff. But it was good. And now it's interesting because you can tie in all like healing with the frequencies and the vibrations of the voice, and how, yeah, just how healing it is and how relaxing it is, and how actually it can, help heal different organs, and the different frequencies, vibrations will trigger, almost like pull out different diseases, conditions.
Yeah. That reminds me of my little grandmother who's 83 now. She told me just recently her husband just passed away in January, and I can't remember exactly if that was related to what she was telling me. She was saying, I was driving the other day and I was feeling very stressed, and she said, and then I remembered the Om and how you told me, how that, it helps you calm you. And I was like, oh, okay, Grandma. She said, and I just was sitting in my car driving, and I just started doing Om, and my goodness, it actually does do something. And so she says, now whenever I'm stressed out, I just Om. And it's amazing,
Yeah. Even thinking of like babies and animals, they hum or purr, whatever. Babies will hum themselves to sleep. When you hum to them, they relax even easier, greater. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know I'd always try on my niece when I was visiting, just to hum to her when I'd put her to sleep, and like, this is easy, but not all the time, I'm sure.
It's amazing the simplicity of it. Something that's that simple of Om, right? Of that sound, like you said, it's just innate in animals and babies, and how we get so far away from that as we continue with our lives. And I mean, that's why I love yoga, because it does bring you back home to Om, or to those what is inside of us. We get layered on all this other stuff that we become unconscious of it.
Your days just go so good too. Like it doesn't even matter when you do your yoga, but yeah, in the morning your day flows so well. You're always seems to be in the moment, and even if things do happen that could cramp your day up, usually you could just brush it off. Everyone has bad days, but it just, the more and more you're practicing it and you're breathing, like things don't even really need to bother you or frustrate you, and it's, like it brings you back onto your mat. You can let things go and really, forget about all the stuff we think we need to do and should be.
Unnecessary. You realize how unnecessary so much is.
Yeah. We spend our time thinking of such unnecessary things during the day and spend so much time there, so. But just takes practice, takes some time. But I think other than that, I've had other little signs of like numbers. That's an interesting one, like 222 or 3 2s or 4 2s. I would see them all over the place. I'm like, oh, can I have a sign that, like, should I, do I make this decision or do this business thing with, with this person? And then I'll like turn around and there's like a taxi drives by with like 222 on it, or, that was happening for like a couple years. And then when I moved to Vallarta, all the phone numbers are 222 or like 3 2s or 4 2s, and there's 2s everywhere here. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to take my triple 2s as a sign anymore, just because I almost think the universe like brought me to a place that has 2s everywhere, because phone numbers are 2s.
That's a sign. Yeah.
So I'm like, the Matrix has kind of drawn me in with the 2s, and but it just says, you can even Google it, like 222 or 4 2s, like angels. Whatever number you see repetitively will, is just confirming something with you, or telling you like you're on the right path, or this is, it's just be trying to tell you something, to be aware of your thoughts, or you're on the right path, or keep going, So it's cool. That and feathers. I see feathers a lot. If I'm like unsure of something and I'm like, no, why do I get myself in this situation? Or should I feel awkward, or maybe I am, having some anxiety, and then I'll see a feather and the most random spot.
Love it.
That usually is, again, just it's like, okay, there's nothing to worry about. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to share. Just follow the signs, tune into those things if you're seeing things repetitively, and always bring yourself back to the breath. Bring yourself into the moment, and then you'll get clear messages. You'll get clear signs. The more you pay attention to them too, is the more you can kind of link things together. And then the answers will come. Maybe we get these weird messages, but they might not give us the full answer until months down the road or something.
Yeah, you might not be ready for it yet. Sometimes I think sometimes we look so much like, I've come to this idea of letting go of the death. I call it the death grip. Like, if I know I want something and I hold on to it really tight, I almost put it to bed, like I'm killing it. And when sometimes I obsess about the signs. I'm like, oh, hey, where's 222 or where's 1111? And we're not ready for them yet. And so the moments that I just say, okay, let me breathe, let me come back to my breath, let me practice and get on my mat. And that moment that I surrender, it is like magic that sign is there, but if you're constantly kind of like this, like, where is it? But that moment of surrender, it comes when you're ready.
I know, even just
let go.
The online business, I'm like, how do I get this to work? I don't understand some things. And then just when you surrender is when like clients message and they want to chat, they want more info on this. And then the day you take a nap or the day you let yourself go to the beach, just chill completely, and you find yourself forgetting about that stuff, is the day that like things just pile in. People call you, messages come in. But yeah, when we have that little bit of resistance up to trying to control the flow, maybe, or just resist a little bit.
Don't control the flow. That's my new lesson that I'm working with.
Yeah, I'm not always trying to figure things out, right? We try to figure things out, and that's what one of my old roommates said too. She's like, you just have link signs to every sign, to this sign, to that sign, and this means that, and I'm like, because it does. But at the same time, I just have to you can't figure everything out, and you just, again, you surrender to that unknown and uncertainty. Just the more you practice and the more you tune into those signs, then it just becomes easier to initially make those decisions, I think, too. Because sometimes those signs come as a thought so quickly, and then later in the day or later in that week, something comes up that is like a deja vu, or something that you're like, hey, I just saw that, or I thought about this the other day, or so it's always something that we're picking up from somebody or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing your stories.
Oh, thank you.
And you can find Phoebe at, is it no-mad.com?
Well, yeah, we'll put it up on the Facebook page. Yeah. It's basically no magic. OM is standing out with dashes in between, right? So we'll put it up there.
Okay, and -o. So then they can find her there. You have online yoga as well, right? Online yoga.
Yeah, online yoga classes. We're just launching that, and yoga retreats. We have something coming up in Costa Rica, Nosara. So we'll be there in August.
Perfect. When is that?
That's
okay,
August
so that's
3rd through the 7th. And then we have another one in Nicaragua in November with a wonderful teacher who's also doing it. So writing and yoga workshop. Move into story,
nice.
That's what we're calling it. So it's going to be a writing lab and yoga.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, that place is magical.
Nice. Yeah, I was thinking, I'm like, maybe I'll travel and do a retreat in Costa Rica next year.
Yes.
Because I know some clients and want to go to Costa Rica. Lots of people come to Mexico too, so just see what clients like. Post something there too.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Okay, well, thanks for joining, and we'll chat with you soon.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, have a good night, Phoebe. We'll talk to you
Bye.
later. Bye.